right, guys, we are now live again on a Wednesday night for our conversations with Cougars, and I'm so pleased to have childhood friend and fellow quarterback with me, Jamie Holman. How are you doing, bud?
Fantastic.
Well, I appreciate you making some time for us tonight, and I know you've seen what we've been doing over the last, since January, these awesome conversations with Cougars past, and we've been going down great trips down memory lane. And guys, if you don't know, Jamie was 2 years behind me, the class of '88, and a multi-talented, multi-sport athlete who raced BMX, played soccer, basketball, football, baseball, the sport of what's happening now. Jamie was doing it all during that time, and always with a funny quip or a funny story to share. So I'm so glad that you've got some time for us tonight, Jamie.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this. These have been great. I've enjoyed watching all these. I can't catch all of them live, but they've been great to watch during the COVID pandemic lockdown and driving. You know, I'll pop one in and I won't watch the video, but I have the audio going. So it's been a great thing. I appreciate you doing this and keeping the Cougar spirit alive on video.
Well, thank you. And as I say,
you're a historian.
I really appreciate it, but the pleasure's all mine. I get to have awesome conversations with old friends and new friends every Wednesday. So we're going to keep doing this. And
yeah.
Before we start telling some tall tales, tell folks a little bit about yourself and your beautiful family and what you're doing these days.
Yeah, so I live in Birmingham. I moved to Birmingham right out of college, went to Alabama, and with a lot of Northview guys, and had a great time there. Graduated, went to work with Merrill Lynch right out of school, sort of followed my dad's footsteps, and been in the financial services business industry since then. So a lot of years now, and I'm married and met my wife Ann indirectly in college. We met once and then met again later after she's a few years younger, and met her after she graduated and I was working. And then we have 3 kids. Our oldest daughter, Joy Louise, which we call Lucy. She's a junior at TCU in Fort Worth. She really enjoys it there. Great place to go to school. My son, Mac, is our middle. He's a freshman at Alabama. So he's enjoying that as best he can in the circumstances. Yeah. And my youngest daughter, Wells, is a junior in high school here, and she goes to Mountain Brook High School.
Very good.
So we're 2/3 empty nesters.
Well, sadly, Jamie and I live about 3 miles apart geographically, but never seem to see each other very often. And now the pandemic hasn't helped those things, but we need to do a better job of at least going to lunch every once in a while.
And some more of the Northview guys. We've had a group over the last couple of years that graduated in my year. We tried to get together during the fall and try lunch every month. Some months we do, some months we don't, but it's hard. Everybody gets going.
Everybody's busy, you know. Oh, we got some folks in here that already want to share some hellos and some love with you, Jamie. We got Keith Dudley says, "What's up, brother?"
Yeah, Big Dud.
Pat Fitch says to tell you hello.
Yes.
We got a whole bunch of other folks who've chimed in. I'm sure there'll be more comments as we go along. Well, Jamie, going to Honeysuckle, one of the 4 feeder schools back in the day, I know that several of your classmates and teammates came over to Northview, but football wasn't necessarily your first love. I know that you had everything else, every other sport you were playing. So what was it about the other sports that you loved, that at least as a middle schooler, that really got your attention that you excelled at?
Yeah, so I guess from a sports standpoint, baseball was just always, I always played baseball. Started with t-ball, and as you know, Dothan's, our baseball program is just fantastic, and we had a great group and my age. And one year, one of our all-star teams went all the way to state. I think we lost maybe in the semifinals or something. David Burnham was on our team. He was the Nolan Ryan of the Little League.
Out of Westgate.
He could not be stopped. I think one year on that run, he ended up having a perfect game, against Sylacauga or somewhere. I can't remember, but so baseball, always grew up playing baseball. Loved that. Soccer was something that I just liked. It was new to Dothan when we were young, and it just was, I didn't really like football. And so that was my fall sport. It just was something that, maybe, I can't remember. I thought about playing one time. I used to go to the boys club a lot. That was my after school activity from Montana Street. If you can imagine today, I would leave Montana Street and my parents let me either ride my bike or walk from Montana Street to the boys club after school.
Wow.
I don't know how many miles that was. It was in this neighborhood sometimes, but that was the time we lived in. So, the football when you were younger, it was boys club football, and it just wasn't something I was interested in. I really like soccer. Basketball, played basketball at the boys club, loved basketball. And then in middle school, got caught up in BMX racing, like you had mentioned, racing bikes. Couple of your older, or my older guys that were in it were like Phil Northington, Northview Cougar. There was Don Jordan, which at one point I think went to Northview, and then they moved. But that really, I just really enjoyed that. Rode my bike all over town, everywhere. And, for a sport, for somebody in junior high or middle school where you can't drive,
right?
You're pretty much a nerd, or I was. There was nothing to do. I got to travel and go out of town or out of state almost every weekend to race bikes. And that was a lot of fun. And that was we had other Cougars. Scott Falk used to go on some bike racing. A guy named Stuart Harrison graduated in our class, still involved in it. But that was a lot of fun, and the camaraderie of that, and getting to travel, that kept me busy.
I remember when they built the track at Westgate. I have no experience whatsoever. It wasn't my thing. I went and watched Phil several times, and presumably you and others. How did the Westgate track compare to other out of state or out of city tracks where you competed?
Yeah, we were late to the game there, but the track was really good. It took a lot of work. I think my dad and about 2 or 3 other guys at the time had to sign a promissory note with the city for them to loan the money and fund it, and then concessions and other things ended up, paying for the track. But it was really good, but it didn't have the history. So now it is actually, I've been out of it for 30 years, but it's on the national circuit. So there are national races at that track still to this day. But at the time, it was Lagoon Park in Montgomery, Oak Mountain State Park here had a track. And then we would go out of town. We'd go to Atlanta, Nashville, Louisville, Miami, Jacksonville.
Wow. These were big time road trips as a middle schooler. That's very cool.
It was.
Well, how did you get pulled away from that and roped into finally? I know you played at least 1 year of football in middle school, but by the time you were coming over to Northview, the Coach Parrish was not going to let you slip through, knowing the athlete that you were. How did that all play out?
That was sort of weird. I'd already decided I'm not playing football because I had at Honeysuckle, Coach Campbell and Coach Taylor had menacing Jamie on the offensive line. And I was a left guard. It was me and Burke Holly, I think, was on the line with me. And I didn't like that one bit. That was no fun. No disrespect to the offensive linemen. You guys did a great job, but I was not cut out for that. We were okay. Most of that honeysuckle team went to Dothan High. We really only had a few guys go to Northview that I played sports with. There's Derek Ward, James Brown, Scott Falk. I'm trying to think of some others. They'll come to me, but we had a lot that went to Dothan High. At that time, Brent Thomas was the quarterback at Honeysuckle, and he was in the little league system, and he was already a big dude, and he had played quarterback his whole life, and so I guess going into ninth grade, I was not going to play, and somehow Coach Singletary, I'm not sure when he moved to Northview. It may have been that year. He coached.
He had been volunteering at Northview, but he'd been at Gerard for several years.
Yeah, so he coached the ninth grade baseball team, and then he coached the ninth grade football team. And I got a call one night at home and answered the phone, or my mom or dad did, and said, "Hey, Coach Singletary wants to talk to you." And I sort of knew him just knew he was the coach of basketball at Gerard. And Chris and I were sort of friends from a little bit of just neighborhood kind of bike racing, and maybe ran into each other at basketball at the boys club or something. And he said, "Jamie, I want you to play football." And I said, "Well, Coach, I'm not interested. I've done that, been there, done that, and offensive line, I'm not interested." And he said, "Well, if you come out, I'll promise you."
Jamie, how tall were you, and how much did you weigh going into ninth grade?
I think I was probably about, I don't know, maybe 5'11", 5'10". I don't know. I'd probably getting up there, but maybe 175, maybe.
Okay, so you had a little bit of weight on you.
I think I have to go look for some pictures, but I said, "Coach, I'm not into that." He said, "Jamie, I promise you'll get a chance. You can play. You don't have to play that. You can try out for a running back or wide receiver or something like that." And I said, "Well, I'll give it a shot." And went out there, and we, how the ninth grade is. You're down there in that bowl, and that ninth grade, you're getting to start the practice before school really gets started, and all these new people, and it felt like we had more people from Gerard and others than we did from Northview. So a lot of new faces, a lot of people I'd known from other sports, from baseball, from the all-star stuff in Westgate, playing baseball, boys club basketball, even some soccer, people that I'd run into. But that was a lot of fun. But he said, "You can try out for another position." And I don't know what the tryout was, but I ended up playing tight end. So still on the line. He tricked me on that one. It was a technicality.
Yeah.
So I was on the tight end, right next to my good buddy Brad Bolden, who was a right tackle. And so we anchored the right side of that offense. And I have no idea how many games we won or what we did, but I do know we averaged probably about 3 passes a game. A lot of running with O'Shawn and others in ninth grade, and we just blocked.
Yeah, some really talented backs in your year, that's for sure. But I'm sure you felt a little hoodwinked, at least by the second practice, and you're on the.
That's right. We, I technically did have 2 routes. I had like a 5-yard curl and maybe a 5-yard out, and I never was throwing the ball, not one time.
I'm sure you had perfected the routes. It wasn't you. I'm sure it was something.
Definitely.
Well, let's move on beyond ninth grade and get you adjusted to high school. I know you played baseball, you played basketball, you were still playing those sports. Were you still riding BMX in high school?
I did through ninth grade. I really stopped after ninth grade. At one point in ninth grade, and I remember I can't remember, I think it may have been Coach Parrish got mad at me. We went up to, let me think of where it was. It was Nashville for the World Cup championship in Nashville. And I fell in practice and broke my hip, or cracked it. Didn't break it. It cracked.
In bike practice, not
biking, not football, biking. And it was a crack, it just hurt, but ended up getting through it and all that. But he wasn't fond of that. He actually thought that was more dangerous than playing football. But after that, and then the turning 16 and getting a car ended my passion for bike racing.
Priorities shifted.
They absolutely shifted.
Well, let's bring it into your sophomore year, which was my senior year, and that's the fall of '85, which we all know was the championship year. And you and I got to hang out a little bit during the year because by that point they had shifted you over to quarterback.
Yeah.
And hopefully your spirits about playing the sport that was not your favorite had perked up a little bit.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I probably told you before, but going in, so we had this ninth grade deal, tight end, and literally going into spring training of ninth grade, first day of spring training, we were scared out of our minds because we were going from the Dust Bowl with just us to the big boy field, and that was going to be, we didn't know what was in store.
What to expect.
Yeah, I can tell you we're a little bit nervous, at least I was. And so I'm going in, and Coach Parrish was in his little office there right in the gym on the right, the little like ticket booth thing. And he says, Holman, come in here. I'm like, oh no, what's going on? He calls me in there and says, I've been thinking about it, and I've got, I know where you're going to start playing today and starting next year. I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking, going to get to that receiver thing. And he says, you're going to play quarterback. And I said, Coach, I don't know anything about quarterback. And he said, that's okay. And I said, well, we've got 3 quarterbacks. He said, well, they're moving to defense.
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
So Singletary and Webb Drake and Jim Pike. And Chris moved to free safety. Jim and Webb moved to cornerback. And they, are fantastic. And so we started this thing at quarterback. I mean, you were already doing your thing, but I was over there on the side trying to figure out how to get a snap. I'd never taken a snap. I didn't know where to put my hands, how to hold my hands. I didn't know how to take a 3-step drop. I didn't know how to call the cadence. I didn't know anything. Things that are so easy and now are common. I had no idea. I started from scratch.
You were a blank slate going into that.
Yeah. And that was a lot of fun, learning, a lot of nervousness. Now that year was obviously, I was probably worried the most that I would have to go in, that you would get hurt, Reggie, Pearson would get hurt. And then I don't think I would have gotten in. I think they would have Lawrence would have played quarterback before I would have played, or Oshar or somebody. We wouldn't have had a quarterback. They would have just run snap Wildcat, I think, before I played.
That's funny. Well, you had the pleasure, and I put air quotes around this, of having to go up against, I think, 13 different players on defense who ended up playing college football. Most notably Cassie Butler, Willie Banks, and the company. Yeah. And it couldn't have been fun trying to learn a sport, learn a position, and having to go up against some major talent right there. What was that like?
They would get so mad at me because I couldn't simulate the quarterback on the other side because I was so bad. Like I couldn't give them a really good, look at an offense because I was still trying to figure it all out. I'm fumbling the snap. I'm, going back. I'm looking at the wrong spot, or I can't throw it in the right place. And they took it a little easy on me. Coach Parrish was quick with the whistle, whoever was running the offense or defense at that point, so that I wouldn't.
He didn't need or want you to be hurt.
Exactly.
Now the guys wear red jerseys and no hand, can't touch them.
Yeah.
But even certain days of the week in practice, the ones versus ones, anybody was lawful to hit.
Oh yeah. But back then, I really don't, as far as practice and getting ready, my head was spinning that a lot during that. And just learning drills and where to go from one station to the next. And
Well, that coupled with we installed a brand new offense right before the season started, made it even more difficult for the 10th graders moving up. But let's move into the season a little bit. It's one thing to dress out and just be on the sidelines and doing your thing. But I know Coach Parrish liked for all the offense, particularly the quarterbacks, to be near him. So, and Robert, my middle brother, who you know very well, was a year behind you. He was a 9th grader. He carried the clipboard and charted plays during the game. So that was a great experience for him and for me too, with Rob being on the sidelines with us. Yeah. But what was it like being near the coaches during that year? Was it organized chaos? Was it complete chaos? What were you absorbing?
It was, the absorption level was very low. I'm telling you, some of the things that were going on, I just, not knowing the position, I just was trying to pick up any little thing I could. And, like I said, picking up the offense and trying to figure out, who's going where, and I'm looking one way and you're throwing it the other way, and, trying to get anything out of it. It was tough, but we had a good time. We goofed off a lot. Like I tend to try to make, the best out of any situation. So there were a few of us that knew we were not getting in the game. And when things were good and everybody was happy, and we knew that the stress was off, we were looking at the cheerleaders and looking in the stands and just having a great time being on such a fun ride, and to be able to go on all those great road trips. And, that was our first time to ride the big boy bus to go to the games and eat the team meal and go to the movies before the games and the pep rallies. That was a lot of fun. And then to obviously getting to go to the, on the playoff run was extra special.
Let me see if your memory of something particular is similar to mine. The bus ride from school, where we got dressed pregame on Friday afternoons, out to Rip Hughes, to me, complete silence. There was not a word said, at least in the bus I was in, and maybe I was just lost in my own thoughts and mental game. Not a word.
Oh, yeah.
The complete opposite if we won on the way home, or back to school. There was singing, hooping and hollering that whole bus ride, with Bubba driving one of the buses all the way back to the campus to go get your car and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Those were fun memories, particularly when we won. But was that?
Oh, yeah. Silence, always silence early, because we followed the lead of the older guys. We didn't know how to act and what was going on there, but it was, quiet on the way. And then, lots of fun on the way back.
Yeah,
we were trying to goof off a little bit, my group, without getting caught. We didn't want to get in trouble, because we were like, why is everybody so quiet? This should be fun, but we just sort of bit our tongue.
Let's fast forward to the playoffs, because we really have a lot of other things to talk about, not just one season. But we get deep into the playoffs, and we have the comeback win, we have an overtime win, then we make it up to Birmingham. And I'll never forget our Tuesday ride up and back for the walkthrough and all of that at Legion Field. Do you remember that trip, that day?
I remember that trip. My best memory of the trip, you mean the practice, like the Tuesday? Yeah.
That Tuesday.
Well, what I remember is, first of all, it was cool because we were there right after the Iron Bowl. Mm-hmm. Now, if you remember, all the debris was still in the stadium from that humongous game. And that was that the Van Tiffen?
It was.
It was. In the Iron Bowl. So all the debris was there. So that was neat. So the thing that I remember, which is really sad, is really, maybe I did it one or two times, but at some point during practice, somebody did something to me and I let the S word go. Okay. And as you know, Coach Ragsdale and Coach Parrish, there's no swearing. And I had the S-bomb which was very rare. I can't even remember why I said it or who made me say it to them, but I got caught and I had to roll on Legion Field as punishment. And you remember having to roll if you got in trouble.
Yeah.
Surely I'm not going to have to roll. They're like, no, hit it. And so I'm rolling at the end of practice on Legion Field for cursing.
I never do that. Wow. Wow. One of your highlights from that.
One of my highlights. Yeah.
I do remember the plastic stadium cups. I remember a lot of guys found those in the stands and took them home with them.
Yeah.
One of the things I remember.
Yeah, that was good. And then I remember one funny stories that I've told over the years is when Clark kicked the field goal in is that the semifinal? What was the?
Against Fairhope in overtime? Yeah.
In overtime. And I don't know if you remember this, but so he kicks the field goal and everybody goes crazy and we run out there and we're all doing, the victory pile on him. And all of a sudden I just hear, get up, get up, get up, get up. It turns out that Clark's chin strap had gotten over his neck and he was down at the bottom of the pile and I don't think he could breathe.
Oh, wow.
And we all just got up and his eyes were this big because he was like, I think I almost died at the bottom of this pile. That's he kicks the winning field goal and almost chokes to death.
I'm hoping to get the Lopez brothers on one of these days, but they're all so busy. It's hard to get them together, but hopefully one day we'll tell that story. Well, Jamie, I remember when we came back up for the game, we stayed at the airport, the Holiday Inn, which I'm not sure.
I think of that hotel. Why did we pick that hotel?
I think either they had stayed there in the 81 game and Charles, Brett, you guys who are watching, if you tell us where you guys stayed when y'all came up, but I know it was easy access on and off the highway. I remember Bubba saying that. Yeah. I want to say it was me, you, Reggie, and maybe
Lopez.
Clark.
Yeah.
Together.
We went to the Eastwood Mall movie theater. There was to watch Rocky.
We sure did.
Rocky versus the Russian.
I remember getting up extremely early that day. I just couldn't sleep. I was just ready to go.
Yeah, I can't believe that you slept any because I don't think we all slept. We were goofing off again, and you'll probably remember this. So, as we all did, then we had, I think the whole team. You had the 2 queen beds in the room, right? So we had 4 people to a room. So you had 2 guys in each bed. And Reggie, as was the style then, and liked his hair product.
Yeah.
Reggie had a lot of hair product, and we were worried that we were going to roll over in our sleep and be face to face with Reggie's hair product.
Yep. Yep.
And I don't know if we did rock, paper, scissors or what to try and figure out who was going to bunk with Reggie, because he liked to have so much hair product.
Funny.
So I do remember that night, and I don't think we slept very much.
No, I'm sure we didn't, but let's move past the ball game. Obviously we know what happened. Going into, that was your sophomore year, you still had basketball and baseball that year, but the next spring you had spring football.
Yeah.
And it's you, it's Reggie, it's my brother Robert.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was a 4th quarterback. It was a big competition at that point.
Yeah.
And what was going on during that time? Did you think you were still going to stay at quarterback? Did you
I think that, at that time I was finally sort of figuring it out. I'd gone to like a quarterback camps and things like that to try and learn more about the position and doing those things. So Coach Parrish obviously has a lean toward the seniors. You're going to get your opportunity, and Reggie was good, fine quarterback. I just assumed that I was not going to play, or maybe play some, or I really didn't. didn't know, but so we took snaps together, and he took more than I did. He probably 60-40 or 70-30 or something like that. And, you've always got to have a good backup. But at that time, this would have been that's my junior year. Coach had me, at that point, I was on the kick return team, returning kicks, at one point returning punts. So that was going on. And I think, we'll get to sort of later on in that year. Also kicking field goals. Lopez got hurt or something at one point. I can't remember what he did, his knee or his.
Like I told you guys, Jamie was multi-talented. He stayed on the field, except for maybe defense. You probably played about 2/3 of the play.
Yeah, I can't remember what happened to Clark, but at some point Clark got hurt and missed a couple of games for something, and I just don't remember what it was. But that was my most enjoyable, really, football is playing. We got to play quarterback. I got to, in a couple of games, kick, field goals, kickoff, extra points.
I was going to say some of your soccer training helped out there.
Probably punt and punt return. So yeah, not to be able to stay on the field except defense. Didn't play any defense, but.
Jamie, we got Shirley C says to tell you hello and hope you're doing well.
Thank you.
And Jason Mullins, who played several years after us, says, yeah, 175 is not enough to be on the O-line.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Charles Bronson says he thinks that they stayed at the same hotel. And I want to welcome Coach Parrish, who's just joined us among others.
Hey, Coach.
We're talking with Jamie Holman. We're in the 1986, headed into 87, your senior year, and you have a life event that occurs. Your mother succumbed to cancer right before the season started. And for those of you who didn't have the pleasure and the honor of knowing Mrs. Joy Holman, you guys really missed out. She was mama to a lot of us, and one of the sweetest, dearest ladies. And I know as a 17, 18-year-old, that rocked your world as it did many, many other.
Yeah, it did. Obviously, super impactful. I probably wasn't equipped, emotionally, mentally to handle all of it, what was going on. And it was she had a really tough battle. It started the spring of my junior year, where she was diagnosed and went through chemo and radiation and, all the, back then the procedures weren't as good as they are now. It's still tough now, but, I think it was even a little tougher back then. And, if it was difficult. Sports, kept me distracted. My friends kept me distracted. And she didn't want to upset or it to, worried about her son. She didn't want it to change my life and all and those type of things. But yeah, she loved sports. She loved kids. She loved helping people. She loved to support people that she thought needed it, whether if it was financial or a kind word or a ride or someone's mom or somebody needed help. She was there, and she had a pretty tough childhood growing up. And I think she identified that, people just, need a little help every once in a while. And, that's what she was all about. Loved girls sports, loved girls basketball. She threatened while I was in high school that as soon as I got out, she was going to be a girl basketball referee. She has said, I'm reffing basketball. And I'm like, well, not while I'm in high school.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as you graduate, I'm going to take the whatever the exams are, and I'm going to be a referee.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, well, good luck.
Well, Jamie, I know that playing sports, being part of a team, a teammate, that had to have helped you for a while. And I know that some of your closest buddies were there, but yeah, as a teenager, no one's ever equipped and knows the playbook, so to speak, on how to deal with all of that. But I know that so many people have so many kind things to say about your mother. And I hope that you know that, not just for me, but for many,
Oh
many.
yeah. And I knew that back then. I know it now. I still have people, I've had my whole life come up to me, and tell a story about something that she had done for them, or, how just
She
really
left
kind
a legacy. She left a really, really good legacy.
yes. And, so yeah, it was sad and tough. And, there were probably times where I didn't need to be, I didn't know I didn't know which way was up.
And then to add insult to injury, you get hurt during your senior year.
Yeah,
What?
towards the end, we, like I said, a little foggy on a lot of the things going on in the fall. I would really, need to go back and like get a game by game recap to jog some memories. But yeah, we didn't have a great year. We struggled a little bit offensively, trying to figure out, what to do, what would work, and taking advantage of our talent where it was. And we
One game I know that you do remember, guys, Jamie led Northview to victory over Greenville, the only game that we ever beat Greenville in the program's history. And I don't know if you remember any of the details, but you had a career game that game.
and that was I think it was that junior year, I guess.
Was it?
Yeah, junior year, because senior year we played them up there, and that's where I got hurt, and that's where Robbie came in, or that game
When he threw all the passes.
a zillion passes. Was that game is when we decided to basically ditch our offense and go to just all air attack.
Yeah.
And that was fun. I will go ahead and tell you that was another really fun time. But do you remember? I'm sure you do. We had at one point we're trying to run like the Notre Dame box. So we had me and Robbie, Mark Saffold, and O'Shawn in the backfield. And I'm not sure what we were supposed to do or how it was supposed to work, but it didn't.
It's concept. It's one of those offenses I think that you have to work on for quite a while. No matter how talented the athletes are in the backfield, it's just so complicated blocking where you guys are going to go.
Yeah.
But let's go back to your senior year. You played multiple positions before you get hurt. Did your season conclude when you got hurt, or were you able to come back after that?
Yeah, no, that game against Greenville, we decided, hey, we're going to this air attack, and Robbie moved in to quarterback, and I moved to that whole week wide receiver and tailback. That we swapped around. O'Shawn would play some, and I would play some, and that was a lot of fun. Getting ready for that. I mean, it's like now all the offenses, everybody's throwing the ball around, and so that was big fun. And so that game in Greenville was we moved the ball really well, and we actually had a couple of good plays, and Robbie hit me with a long pass, and I fell sort of weird. Sort of got speared-ish, kind of hit. I think it was sort of a combination of the hard field and some kind of weird hit that separated my shoulder. And so that was it for me. Went to the sideline and then drove to the hospital in Dothan that night. Next morning had surgery, put 2 pins in there, which is funny. My orthopedic friends now are like, no, we don't do that anymore. That's not the way we do that. We'll probably have to have that fixed again. I'm like, okay, thanks.
Yeah, that was 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago.
Yeah, so that was it. I mean, then after that, we played, I think the last game of the year was Carroll.
Well, I was getting ready to go back to the comment, your orthopedic friends. I'm sure that Dr. Benton Emblem, who was a a teammate of my brother David several years behind us, I'm sure he would not be doing what they did back in the ancient days.
Yeah, I've joked about that with Benton and Lyle Kane that that is not the way,
Do you
handle that.
do you still have the hardware in your shoulder?
No, they pulled it out. They pulled the pins out. That was an interesting experience. You go in and the pins are in your arm, and then they're nails, and they bend the ends of the nails so that the skin can go over it.
Uh-huh.
So after 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it is, I went into the doctor, and not a doctor, but a male nurse comes in, and he says, "We're going to get these pins out." I'm like, "Okay, where's the doctor?" He's like, "No doctor." And I said, "Okay." He's like, "Would you like the, or no, what did he say?" He said, "Would you like Zyla or Nova? Which one of the Kane sisters would you like?" And I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So they numb it up and literally slice it and get a pair of pliers and pull the pins out, just like pulling out of a board. That was pleasant.
I'm sure it was. Wow. Boy, that's ancient days, But I want to welcome Pat Fitch, said that his best graduation gift he received from your mother.
Oh, great. Good.
Edward Lee has joined us.
Oh, man.
Mrs. Holman was one of my most favorite moms. I have many great memories.
Edward Lee. Yes. I spent many a summer at the Lees. That was, Catherine Lee would babysit.
Catherine was my class.
Me and Robert and Edward would basically spend, they had an action-packed street of some of our baseball guys that were older.
Oh, how many games of wiffle ball did we play in the backyard with Robbie Arnold and Ricky?
Robbie Arnold. Oh, the Lees had an awesome wiffle ball house yard. Those were some great. Yes, we played a lot of wiffle ball.
Well, Jamie, let's take it to your senior year spring. You're finished. Your football career has concluded.
That's right.
You're going into your senior year of I don't want to skip basketball, but did you play senior year basketball?
No, basketball sort of petered out in 10th grade, played 9th grade, played a little 10th grade, but my skill level and height and jumping ability, I think peaked, and we were full with David Huffam, Scott Owens, Chris Singletary, James Brown. I mean, we had enough guards to go around, and that was something that at that point I said, I'm just going to play football and baseball.
Were you able to go to play baseball that spring? Was your shoulder repaired enough?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was ready. We had a baseball was full on at that point, and we had a good team. We had a lot of fun as we had, the baseball. Bubba never really didn't turn people down that wanted to play baseball, and Coach Singletary was the same way when we started 9th grade. So I don't know how many. I mean, we almost didn't have enough a room in the bench in the dugout for our baseball team. I mean, well, in 9th grade, whatever the scholarship limit is, we were over it.
That's funny. Well, obviously, all teenagers, all middle schoolers and teenagers going through those years, it's an emotional roller coaster at its core. And then adding some of the things that you've just shared with us, it creates even more of a roller coaster at times. But I've also heard a lot of fun memories. I've heard a lot of good memories and friendships. And I don't want to leave out Mr. Barkley as one of your running around buddies from back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
But looking back, what was it that made you proud to go to Northview and to represent the school in whatever endeavors you were doing?
Yeah. I mean, I loved every minute of Northview. I mean, so I was an only child, and to be able to walk, to go to a place that was just, you got to see all your friends, you got to interact with all these different people. The teachers were great, the coaches were great, and with you guys winning that state championship and having that other state championship, and our baseball program was so good. I mean, I can't imagine a better place to go to school and to, I mean, I feel blessed to have been from Dothan in general, and all the great friends I have from Dothan, and all the people, and, from Houston Academy to Montana Street to Honeysuckle and Northview. It was just great. I mean, I can't imagine a better experience, for high school than Northview.
Well, while there are, I'm sure, many of your classmates from your year live in Dothan or the Dothan metro area, so many of them in my class as well live in Birmingham or in the Birmingham area. And I regularly, or used to before the pandemic, would see them from time to time. Certainly, I'm sure you have. You've already mentioned David Huffman, who I know has a dentist or an dentistry practice?
Orthodontist, yep.
Practice here in near us. Go ahead. I was just going to ask you, who are some of those others?
Yeah, you've got Mark Saffold, Keith Cummings lives here. I know I'm going to forget some people. Burke Holly. Let's see. Said Cummings. Gosh, they'll come to me, but,
And Jamie, we're almost at the end of our conversation, and I sure appreciate you taking me through your time, your story, and your experiences. I'm sure, like every one of us who have children at this age of our lives, our children are so tired of hearing our stories. And sometimes my children correct me and say, "No, it really wasn't like that, Dad. Here's how it really was." And they're right most of the time. I want to know, give me a couple of stories, maybe life lessons, things that you've shared with your children. And I know that Mac's probably like, "Oh, I don't want to hear it again," or Lucy's the same way. But what are some of those that have stayed with you over 30 years now?
Gosh, there are a lot. That's a good question. You're digging deep there, Roy Firestone.
I'm not going to make you cry.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I mean, there are just so many lessons. What I really liked about Northview is just how to me, everybody was just together, and we didn't know where people were from or, where they lived, and especially during sports. I mean, it didn't matter, what house you lived or street or where you grew up. I mean, everybody was on the field together, working together. And, that was, something that, I always felt just the teamwork and the inclusiveness and, the sort of, be corny, sort of feeling a family at Northview. I feel like we're all, sort of a big extended family, when you find somebody who went to Northview. As far as some life lessons or stories, none come to mind. Now, I've told a lot of them to my kids. I mean, they've been to a Northview reunion. They've driven to the school. I've toured them around inside, and talked about, this is where I had a locker and those things. And yeah, I'm sure they're tired of those, but just from football standpoint, the work that we did, the physical hard work that we went through, I guess people understood it, but I mean, it was tough. I mean, that was right at the beginning of letting you have water. I mean, if you remember, that used to be, you were weak if you drank water. Right. If you needed, so physically getting through that and having the mental state to finish what you started, and we're going to get this right at practice. We're going to do this. I don't care how dark it is. You remember those times where it would be dark and somebody would get a truck or something? I mean, we were practicing.
There were no lights on the practice field.
No, yeah. So, if we didn't get something right, it didn't matter if the sun was down. We just kept doing it. I mean, I remember kicking field goals one time. Coach would not let us leave practice until I kicked a 50-yard field goal. I'm like, it's like, okay. We kept kicking and kicking and kicking and kicking. I think it finally got so dark that he just said one went in. when it didn't. But I think it's just sticking to it and, being tough and going through and fighting through adversity. And, I think that's obviously a life lesson that anybody would agree is a good one.
Absolutely. And there's just, gosh, there's so many lessons from playing sports during your time in being a youth that we all can learn from. But Jamie, my friend, thank you for spending some time with us and taking us down memory lane today. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this. It's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, going back through my memory bank and trying to sort of piece together a lot of things. And I mean, I've got stories for days on things that I thought were I had so much fun and had such.
I got a comment from Edward Lee. You need, meaning you, Jamie, need to tell your kids about McBad and the Monza.
I have a copy of McBad. I actually have a copy. So you tell Edward Lee, he's listening. I have a copy. I don't know where I'd get a VHS player to play it.
Maybe you can get it converted over to something.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, my friend.
Right,
so good to see you guys. Thank you again, Jamie. You guys have a great rest of your week. We'll see you again next Wednesday with Conversations with Cougars. Y'all be well.